The infamous medieval witch case of Alice Kyteler, History Madness. In 1324, Dame Alice Kyteler made history as the first woman in Ireland to be formally accused of witchcraft. But was she genuinely a sorceress wielding dark powers to manage her fate, or just an astute and ambitious woman outsmarting the men in a society stacked against her? Today on History Madness, we're diving into the notorious case of the so-called Witch of Kilkenny, a tale brimming with ambition, wealth, suspicion, political rivalries, and one of the earliest documented witch trials in European history. Alice's origins. Alice was the only child of Flemish immigrants who established their home in Kilkenny in the mid-13th century. Kilkenny was far from a quiet town. It was a bustling center of trade and politics, where Anglo-Norman settlers often clashed with native Irish families for dominance. Growing up in such a dynamic environment, Alice quickly learned the importance of wealth, reputation, and forming powerful alliances. After her father passed away, she swiftly remarried into influence. Her first husband, William Outlaw, was a prosperous merchant and moneylender. The Outlaw family was well connected. William's brother, Roger Outlaw, later became Ireland's Chancellor, one of the most powerful positions at the time. Alice and William welcomed a son, also named William, and when her husband passed, the younger William took over the thriving business and eventually became the mayor of Kilkenny. For many widows in that era, this might have marked the conclusion of their story, but not Alice. Her journey was just beginning. In 1302, Alice remarried. Her second husband, Adam le Blund of Callan, was yet another successful moneylender. Their combined wealth was mind-boggling. By 1303, records indicated that William Jr. was safeguarding an incredible sum of £3,000, equivalent to millions today. In a society where many peasants labored just to survive, Alice and her family's riches were particularly conspicuous, drawing the ire of others. Rumors began to swirl. Alice and Adam were accused of playing a role in the dubious death of her first husband. However, these accusations faded away, whether due to influence, bribery, or simply insufficient evidence. Adam passed away in 1307, leaving behind a surprising will. He bequeathed his property not to his children, but to Alice's son William. Many were taken aback. This unusual choice sparked whispers that Alice had bewitched him into disinheriting his rightful heirs. By 1309, Alice married again. Her third husband was Richard de Valle, a wealthy landowner from Tipperary. Once again, fortune seemed to favor her son William. When Richard passed away before 1316, Alice found herself embroiled in a bitter legal battle over her widow's rights against his surviving son. Her reputation continued to grow. People began to refer to her as the Merry Widow, a nickname laden with suspicion. 4 marriages, 4 wealthy husbands, and each death left her son William richer and more influential. Coincidence or clever strategy? Her fourth and final husband was Sir John Lepore, a knight of noble lineage. In marrying him, Alice became Dame Alice. Sir John even revamped his will in favor of her and William, much like the husbands before him. This time, however, her stepchildren refused to remain silent. They were convinced she had manipulated and poisoned their father. And in the charged atmosphere of 14th century Ireland, such accusations could carry lethal weight. Witchcraft in 14th century Europe. To fully grasp why these accusations were so perilous, we must pause and reflect on the mindset of the time. The 14th century was steeped in deep faith, intertwined with profound fear. Folk remedies, charms, and rituals were integral to daily life. Women, in particular, often served as healers, midwives, and keepers of herbal wisdom. While neighbors might view these practices as harmless traditions, the Church saw them as threats. St. Augustine had taught that all forms of pagan magic, irrespective of how innocent they might appear, originated from the devil. Even healing charms were seen as potentially satanic. Therefore, when someone faced witchcraft charges, it wasn't simply an accusation of she mixes herbs. It was a claim that she serves Satan. This environment of fear made it easy for accusations to gain traction, especially against a wealthy, foreign-born woman who had outlived 4 husbands. Bishop Ledred and the trial. In 1324, Sir John Lepore fell sick, with symptoms suggesting arsenic poisoning. His children suspected Alice's involvement and alerted Richard de Ledred, the Bishop of Ossory. Ledred was known for his zealousness and was eager to root out heresy, seeing Alice's case as a prime example. The charges leveled against her were sweeping and severe. She was accused of rejecting Christ and the Church, sacrificing animals at crossroads, and holding secret nighttime gatherings for unholy rituals. Remarkably, she was even accused of engaging in a sexual relationship with a demon, an incubus. However, perhaps the most damaging evidence came from her maidservant, Petronilla de Meath. Under torture, Petronilla confessed, claiming she and others had sworn loyalty to Alice, concocted potions, and participated in grotesque rituals. Torture often manufactures confessions, and within the Church's eyes, her statements sealed Alice's fate. By November 1324, Petronilla was burned alive at the stake, the first woman in Ireland executed for witchcraft. Her death served both as punishment and a dire warning. Power, politics, and escape. Bishop Ledred intensified his push for Alice's punishment. But she had powerful allies. Her son William was connected to Roger Outlaw, the Chancellor of Ireland. When Ledred sought Alice's arrest, Roger stood his ground. Frustrated, Ledred redirected his wrath toward William, accusing him of heresy and imprisoning him within Kilkenny Castle. William eventually secured his release through generous contributions and public acts of atonement. Alice, however, achieved something far more impressive. She escaped. Against the backdrop of charges and the bishop's fury, she vanished from Ireland and was never recorded in history again. Legacy of the Witch of Kilkenny. The aftermath was significant. Petronilla and others endured horrendous fates. The people of Kilkenny were left reeling from both the accusations and the public spectacle surrounding the trial, and Alice herself became a figure of legend. To her adversaries, she was a poisoner who eluded justice. To many others, she represented a shrewd, independent woman who defied the Church and managed to survive in a hostile world for powerful women. Her case reveals the underlying tensions within her society. The fear surrounding women who held wealth. The friction between folk traditions and religious doctrine. The conflict between church authority and secular power. The alarming ease with which suspicion could turn deadly in a society obsessed with sin and the devil. Conclusion. So, was Alice Kyteler a cunning killer, eliminating her husbands to ensure her son's future? Or was she merely a victim of envy, political strife, and the cloud of suspicion surrounding powerful women? The truth might forever remain a mystery. Yet her case marks a pivotal chapter in history, the start of witch trials in Ireland and one of the earliest in Europe. When you hear the term witch hunt, think of Alice. Her story transcends mere spells and demons. It delves into power, wealth, and fear in one of the darkest centuries of medieval Europe. Thank you for tuning into History Madness. If you found this story engaging, please consider subscribing, leaving a comment, sharing your thoughts, and sharing this video with fellow history enthusiasts who appreciate the darker corners of our past. Stay curious, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.